welcome to this week's edition of the Near Fall Podcast on GardenStateHSWrestling.com. I'm Donald J. Brower. We're a day late, hopefully not going to be $1 short. I hope everybody had a great holiday week. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that. Great end of the year if you're a wrestling fan. Before we get into some of the big matches we got to see last week, including some upsets, we've got to talk about the man, Dan Wernickoff, champion athletes, the man who's the reason I'm here right now. You talk about when you're a wrestler and you're an athlete of any kind, you work out, you train, you do everything you need to do to be at peak performance. But a lot of people forget the food. You need the proper fuel. Dan Wernickoff will work on you. You have meal plans. Dan Wernickoff has helped so many athletes, not only in New Jersey, not only in this country. He's helped so many people achieve their goals. Dan Wernickoff, champion athletes, check him out. Now, we talked about some of the big matches. Some of the big matches, we want to talk about from last week. The 30th was an amazing day in the area if you were following along. One of the big surprises I saw was Wes Morris beating High Point 36-30. I know I got a little bit of a pushback by some people on who I picked to win the national division. I had Wes Morris taking it, so a couple people were like, oh, a lot of people don't realize is Wes Morris has some really good hammers. And now they have some guys in there who can fill those spots. So now they can actually field the full lineup, which you couldn't say that a couple of years ago. They were starting down 18-0 for most matches. And to beat a High Point team that's a little down this year, unless Brian's still down a couple, but to beat a High Point team, that's a big feather in your cap. The biggest thing with Wes Morris I've noticed is they have those hammers, like we said. You talk about a Brandon Dean, a Murte, a Campanaro, a Frame, those guys like that. The biggest thing I could see being a problem is I think they're going to have a successful year if you get a team that has similar hammers at that weight. What you might be able to see is you might see neutralizing, or maybe instead of where they would get those bonus points, they might only get 3 or 4. And if a team has a little bit of a deeper roster, they might be able to overcome there. But big win for Wes Morris. Now we head down a little bit down the Hunterdon Central. This was kind of shocking. And I know beginning of the year, we'll see what happens, but Hunterdon Central 43, Del Val 18. That was very shocking to me. I don't know what the score. There was one of those things. I know there was, from what I understand, that one of the big reasons too was there was an issue with Calisardo, an injury default. I don't know if they called it a slam or what they exactly called it, but his opponent couldn't continue, so that he got disqualified. That's a big swing there, but still, 43-18, you see that amongst two top teams. That's a little tough, and that's kind of, rough. Now, the one we covered, the shocker, to some, I thought both teams were very good at any even match, but to some, this is kind of shocking. The Warren Hills-Mount Olive match, Warren Hills won 37-22. Now, there was a little bit of a controversy with this match. That I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about, nothing too crazy. At 132, a wrestler went out for Mount Olive, and he was not on the weigh-in sheet for Warren Hills. They protested, and the wrestler wasn't on the weigh-in sheet, so there was a forfeit awarded that. Now, what I've gathered talking to sources on both sides, Mount Olive says there was a conversation that earlier in the day, because they had some JV guys at a tournament, that they were going to be allowed to wrestle because they didn't want to weigh him in again. And this is what I told, along that. They said this was related to Warren Hills. The Warren Hills side says that never happened, and they wouldn't have somebody who could have a whole day to lose weight to weigh in for a match. Long story short, it really didn't matter in the end, from my point of view, because it seemed Warren Hills was a little crisper. I think some of the other issues for Mount Olive was, I know their 106-pounder didn't make weight, so that would have been a 9-point swing potentially with Warren Hills, because I know Augie for Warren Hills wound up pinning. That's a whole different story if it's different. So Warren Hills just seemed a little bit crisper on the mat, and take nothing away from both teams. They left it out there, and I don't want that 132 match to taint Warren Hills' win and have everybody say anything. Both teams came out and did what they had to do. It was a coin flip situation, and both left it on the mat. And, both teams really, looked good out there. Now, that being said, Great end of the year. We got some matches we're going to look forward to coming up. But I said I was going to name my wrestler of the week before this, and there's only one I could think of. I was crawling through the sheets. I was looking through who had the best week to me, who was somebody I kind of said, you know what, I think this is a guy I want to highlight. Jumped out to me this week when I was up at the Glenn Cron Memorial. Kittatinny Bryce Coesfeld. Bryce won the Lynn Cron Memorial. He also won the Caldwell Classic. Has a 43-16 career record. Finished fifth in the region last year. Was a 2022 HWS finalist. But he is my first wrestler of the week this week. Just had a really good tournament. He's had a really good season so far. Now, I want to transition a little bit to next week. Some big matchups coming up. We're going to talk a little bit first about our coverage. We will be a little later tonight. When you see this, we're going to be, we, meaning the site, will be broadcasting the Newton at North Hunterdon girls match with Shani Dunn and Jody Holder on the call, live from North Hunterdon. I think that match starts at 6 o'clock. We'll have the graphic up. I'm not 100% sure, but it's around that time. Our first girls match, we're actually broadcasting. Two of the top squads. I think, it'll be a competitive match. Check out the girls wrestling, and it'll be, entertaining for all. And then another match we're doing next week on Thursday, on the 5th, is Newton at Kittatinny. Big rivalry match up there in the Freedom Division for the NJAC. Two schools that share a town. We're going to be on the call there. Shani Dunn and James Clark will be on the call for that. And I think that'll be a really great matchup, especially Newton will see where they're at. And I think they match up really well. So it'll be exciting to get out there and see that match. Now, if you can't check out the matches we're at, and maybe you want to go see some other good matchups. The 4th, Skylands Rarity Division, the aforementioned Del Val traveling up to Voorhees. Voorhees was very impressive to me against Hunterdon Central until they ran out to their, big run of guys in the bottom. Del Val, I want to see how they rebound from a tough Hunterdon Central loss. That'll be a good one. We said we're in Kittatinny on the 5th. The other matchup on the 5th in the Freedom Division, High Point taking the ride to Jefferson. I want to see how High Point responds with that. Jefferson kind of coming together. That's another really great match in that division. And that's one of those divisions that's always competitive. There's really never a bad division matchup in there. Then Saturday is loaded. If you want to get out and see some good wrestling, you got to get out. Because, we're going to be starting the county tournaments on the 14th with the HWS and the Passaic and the Morris. But if you want to get out and see some good duels and see some quality teams wrestle, this is your weekend. You can head up to Newton. You get up to the Borscht duels where Hanover Park, Newton, North Hunterdon, a bunch of really good quality other schools from the area. It's always a great dual meet tournament. You get up there, check that out in Newton. You want to head to West Morris, really good foursome there for this quad. Del Val, Kittatinny, Morris Knolls, and West Morris. See how that shakes out. I don't know if they're going to wrestle on that because they have a conference match. Morris Knolls at West Morris is going to be the one to watch when you get a chance because they match up really well. Or you want to head to some, get a little flavor from everywhere. Head over to Mount Olive. You got High Point coming in. You got Passaic County Tech, and you got Southern. Southern's top 20 ranked. PCTI is on the edge, so is High Point. Mount Olive obviously wants to rebound from that tough Warren Hills loss, but, you want to get out there and you want to kind of see, those type of matches. Now, obviously, like I said, we're going to be on the call for the different stuff. As far as my rankings go, not too much of a change in the area rankings. I moved West Morris up on behalf of their win against High Point. Really didn't knock High Point down too much in their area. Just kind of, right there in the middle. But nothing really from Passaic has changed with how I have those top 10 teams. But really, really solid, wrestling so far. And now we kind of left the holiday tournaments behind us. Now we're heading into the meat of the order. Like I said, we're going to have county tournaments coming up. We're going to get some really, really big division matchups. I know the following week, I'm pretty sure we're at 4 different matches during the week. We'll post them up, later next week. But I mean, some really big matchups coming up. So stay tuned. Like I said, if you are interested in having us come out and cover something for you, we have a few spots left open, not a ton, but we'd love to get out and cover your match. Shoot me an email, admin@gardenstatehswrestling.com. You can click on the link up above. Speaking of clicking on links, you're probably watching this on YouTube or wherever. Like and subscribe for all our information. It's ding, ding, ding right there. Follow us on our socials, Twitter @GardenStateHSW. I know on Instagram we're at Garden State HS Wrestling, Facebook Garden State HS Wrestling, and pretty much you like sending questions. We're going to answer some questions starting next week at admin@GardenStateHSWrestling.com. We want to hear from you. We want this to be very interactive and have some fun. I'll be away. I'm actually going to be off the grid. I'm actually going to be doing some GardenStateHSWrestling.com business in another state. I'm actually going to be showing a few places what we do and kind of setting it up so we could possibly be doing it in other areas as well. Everything's going great. Everything's going well, but I don't want to cut everybody off, but I wanted to just kind of get on here and thank everybody. So for Jared, the podcasting legend, for all my staff, for everyone who tunes in, I'm Donald J. Brower. We'll see you next time.